Today we have a esteemed panelist, Terron Sims II, U.S. Army combat veteran, businessman, political leader, and a graduate of West Point. Today we're going to be discussing veterans moving forward in unity. Welcome, Terron.
Dr. Arnold, thanks for having me again.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So tell us, what is about this whole thing about unity? I thought we were already marching together with our boots.
That's a good one, right?
Yes.
I would say that with respect to unity, sticking with the subject matter, what went down January 6th on Capitol Hill, people recognizing the fact that we aren't as unified as we may have thought we were, right? Mm-hmm. And that amongst those of us who have been active and involved for a good while, like yourself, myself, and other folks who we know that there are issues, that our country has always had issues, right? But within the ranks of our military, it was always assumed that we were unified, and then come to find out, so some of us were aware. The investigations that DOJ, the FBI are doing into the ranks of our military service members, and even into the ranks of the various agencies and Department of Homeland Security, and coming to find out that white extremist groups have infiltrated in one manner or another our military ranks, right? And either using those as recruiting tools, like what happened with Jeffrey Dahmer. Not Jeffrey Dahmer, I'm sorry. The guy who blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City.
Tim McVeigh, yeah.
Timothy McVeigh, yes, sir. So now, Secretary Austin, Secretary of Defense, for the listeners who don't know, is making a concerted effort to clean out extremism within our military, because if we aren't unified, then we can't be successful in our mission.
Wow. That's a deep comment you just made. And that is something that, if we're fighting for everyone who's in this country, right, and we're overseas fighting, and when we're at home, we still have responsibilities as service members, either when we're either actually serving or when we're retired. We have to be part of the mix of making sure that the country is moving in the right direction, is protected. And how can you protect the country when you have dissension among your own ranks, right? Exactly.
And as you know, if you were deployed, you got to be able to have faith, trust, and confidence in the men and women you're working with.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a combat environment, right? And
that's
so there's always going to be that socioeconomic, religious, racial, ethnic difference. Yeah, those are always going to exist because we're all unique people. But when it comes to the faith, trust, and confidence in someone, with respect to me being confident that they'll have my back, if I have to worry about their views on me as a person, right, then that confuses everything, and it doesn't make well for leadership to create the needed unit cohesion in order to be effective and successful.
That's right. And, within my unit, I had whether a person was white, whether they were, American Indian or East Indian, or whether they were, from the islands, from one of the, areas of the Asian islands and that kind of thing. And it didn't make a difference to me if they were part of my family. And I had a very, very close relationship with many people. So it's not all the people who are in the military that have that thought pattern. So we have a lot of white brothers and sisters who are in the military that are our family. And it's the ideology. It's when you start changing your mind, just like the Taliban, right? You have people who are really great people in Iraq and in Afghanistan and over in the Middle East. They're God-fearing. They're Muslim. they believe in their faith and they believe in the right things for people. But then you have some extreme people who just disregard humanity, disregard your right to be a person. And that is something we cannot have within this country, where our founding principles and our Constitution work against that. So how can you be part of that if you are fighting for those other principles, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't be. You literally have to be a conflicted person.
Yes, yes. So what would you recommend for us to do? There's so many different areas that you were mentioning. The business community, the political leadership community, the things that are going on with people who are combat veterans who came back to the country, who are fighting for veterans' rights for disabilities, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we need to do as service members to form that greater unity? Because we the military and the Army, they say an army of one, right? And the Marines is a few, the proud, the brave, the Marines. We have different slogans for each of these branches, but I respect people from all branches of service, whether it is the Army, it's the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, or the Coast Guard, and that we have to realize that we are part of one blood and that we have to be unified. So what would you suggest that we do to get that closer cohesion, even either while we're in service or after when we become veterans?
So, I honestly believe that at the end of the day, we're all doing the right thing, right? I can't speak for you, but I assume that, like me, there is a group of folks with whom you serve who you still keep in touch, right?
Yes.
You may not necessarily do the same things. You're doing your thing, they're doing their thing, but you have that bond.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so even for me, I've got a friend who, let's just say, I've got a few friends, especially with President Trump having been president, to kind of, peel back the layer of onions of how some people think with respect to the ideology. But we have still maintained our friendships, despite that, lack of a better way of saying it, right? And so I think for the most part, because of, and I you can appreciate this as well, that bond of combat, right? I think it helps keep us together, despite, at least the majority of us, together as friends, however you would define that word, despite the negativity that's been occurring, say, the past 4 to 6 years. So I think for the most part, veterans, the mass majority, I'd even say 99% of veterans are doing the right thing, whatever those right things may be. I believe, though, that moving forward, because we've recognized, and I say we, I'm talking the federal government and civilian leadership, have now recognized that our military is being exploited by these white extremist groups to either recruit or send young men and women in to get the training, do their 3-year minimum and then come out and go back and join their, go join their ranks. I believe what needs to occur at within DOD is just as there's both physical and, let's say, academic, mental tests that recruits have to go through before even going through the official recruiting process, right?
Right.
DOD needs to craft some type of psychological examination. Let's say that tests for racism, xenophobia, misogyny. What's the other one? People prone to sexual assault. I think applying a test like that at the early stages for any man or woman who's attempting to either go the enlisted route, the academy route, the ROTC, or the ROTC route, because then that would number of those folks who would attempt to enter our military either under bad pretenses or they just aren't legitimate leadership material.
Okay, right. And they wouldn't be fighting for the things that you're supposed to be joining for, right? So
Exactly.
that makes a total sense to me. I really like that idea. And now we're going to a time period where we have a lot of homeless veterans still, and we have unemployed veterans, and then we'll have veterans who are going to be, retiring from the military. But many times the people don't realize that you can actually retire after, 20 years or 30 years in the military. And if you start at a young age, that leaves you with that gray zone before you become 65. And people have to go and find other employment after leaving the military. So all of these people have these MOSs, right, these skills, military occupational specialties. And the question I have is, right now we have the Biden administration talking about the future of our country, the rebuilding of the infrastructure, the new technologies coming out for green technologies. Where do you think veterans fit in with that, as far as the job market is concerned?
I think this is a prime opportunity for our country to reinvest in our veterans. I'll tackle this from two perspectives. So I spoke on a panel with Secretary Clinton back in 2016 when she was still running. And one of the things I told her, as you can attest there, you're a medical doctor, so you have real skills. But for those of us who don't have real skills like you, right, like the biggest attribute to those of us who served is our leadership, right, the intangibles. Our ability to motivate and inspire others to accomplish a mission, accomplish a task, right?
Okay.
And then you go one step lower, and there are, veterans who have an actual tangible skill that they can apply. And so, it's an area where we need to, proverbial we, those who are, who will be in a position to take advantage of the infrastructure legislation once it gets passed in whatever form it gets passed. To one, not just look at veterans for their skill sets, because obviously the welders will get jobs, right? The electricians will get jobs and so forth. Hopefully, there are areas that need more hospitals. So obviously, those individuals with medical backgrounds will be able to find employment. But also, the need for them to look past just that piece and where there are actually, managerial type positions, being able to look at a veteran's resume and say, okay, they may not have, they may not check all the boxes for a particular position, but because they have proven their ability to lead X number of people and oversee Y amount of, dollar value equipment, that they have the ability to be successful in these roles as well. Also, with the fact that that a lot of veterans are, when they're in active duty, are having to always get retrained. Whether it's your basic type training with PLDC or CASQ, the CGSC or the advanced course or Sergeant Major's Academy or things like that.
Right.
Because we're going to be introducing a lot of new technology, understanding that veterans have actually a higher than the general population academic IQ and ability to learn and take in knowledge and apply that knowledge in a tangible manner. So hopefully there'll be initiatives to
tap into
ensure that veterans are able to take advantage, especially with the quote-unquote green jobs. I do know of some veteran organizations and companies that are in this space that are working to take advantage of this once it gets signed into law. So, hopefully that will happen.
Okay, fantastic. Well, how can people get in touch with Veterans United? Because I know you're doing a lot of great work out there, and your organization is actually helping veterans all the time. So how do people, tune into your station, or how do they get in touch with your website or phone number?
Well, going to Glenda Smith would probably be the easiest route.
Okay.
And then she can get a hold of me.
Okay.
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm really proud of all the work you're doing right now. This thing about veterans moving forward in unity is essential. It's time for people to come together. It's time for people to recognize the vast talents we have, and those veterans who are already employed, watching out for other veterans if there are job opportunities that come up, and then also the integration into the new economy, the infrastructure rebuilding, and I'm so glad to see this country finally moving forward. So I have to thank you, America's Heroes Group Roundtable with the partner Veterans United. Thank you, Terron Sims II, U.S. Army combat veteran. I love that part. And a graduate of West Point. So you stay and keep doing the things you're doing. And we want to thank you. And then our audience, stay with us, stay tuned. We will return after a short break, and we will move on to the next show.